Let's bring in Democratic Alliance leader John Steenhuisen. Good evening to you. You know, this must be very disappointing to see. I spoke last night to the Johannesburg mayor, Dr. Palazzi. She was so confident that things would go well today. And it seems that it's falling apart almost at the first hurdle. We've heard that rumour that the chair of chairs has been secretly sworn in. I'm not sure how close you are to what is happening. Perhaps you can confirm if you do know anything about that possible swearing in, and why the DA is so determined to stick to precedent. Surely this could be an opportunity to compromise, especially if the party is confident of this multi-party coalition.
Thank you, Sally. And first of all, I have no confirmation whether the chair of chairs is being sworn in. But let me just make it very clear that there's not a single legislature or council around the country, certainly in any of the metros, where the chairpersons of the portfolio committees or Section 79 committees are voted on by secret ballot. The ANC doesn't insist on that in Parliament. Chairs are elected at the first committee meetings by those by the committees. It's certainly unprecedented for chairpersons to be sworn in by secret ballot. The legislation is very clear when it comes to the mayor, the speaker, the chief whip. Those people are sworn in by, are elected by secret ballots, and the law is very explicit on that. So it's really unprecedented to demand a secret ballot for something electing a committee chairperson for a committee on the council.
From what we've heard from various councillors, it's not wrong. It's not clearly explained on whether you have a secret ballot or not. So I'm wondering, why not compromise on this? There's been criticism of Vasco da Gama as the Speaker that he shouldn't have made this a sticking point, that it wasn't necessary. He could have allowed it to happen. It seems that it's sort of drawn battle lines almost immediately.
Yeah, well, I think that when the law is silent, you then go back and look at the precedent. And certainly, if one looks at the precedent when the ANC ran the Johannesburg Council, when the previous multi-party coalition ran the council, there was never a secret ballot for the chairpersons. I think that precedent is very important in the legislative environment. Certainly, that's how we are guided in Parliament as well. When there is a lacuna in the law, you go back and see what the precedent that's been set there. I think that what we're seeing here is the delaying tactic by the ANC and the EFF, who clearly don't have the numbers that they were expecting and are now trying to delay the process and filibuster it to prevent those chairs from being elected. And in doing so, they're compromising service delivery, and that's it.
Dr. Palazzi, the DA mayor, is confident that this is going to happen. She says the vote will go ahead this evening. She's calling what happens an assault on our democracy. The ANC equally adamant it's not going ahead unless it's a secret ballot. Do you think that our new Johannesburg mayor is going to prevail this evening?
Well, I certainly think that they've got the numbers. The multi-party coalition has got the numbers, and that's what lies at the heart of the filibuster attempt that we're seeing here. But the big losers in this are going to be the residents and citizens of Johannesburg, who are looking to that council now to provide services and stability so that we can create jobs, build a city that's able to deliver services, and to get on with the work of governing. This is now just frustrating that even further. And the ANC, I'm very encouraged to see that this is their new approach, because perhaps when Parliament reconvenes, we need to hold them to this precedent that they're creating now and ask for secret ballots for the parliamentary portfolio committees, because given the factionalism of the ANC, I think could yield some very interesting results.
All right, let's move on to other issues. We've got quite a lot to talk about. The Democratic Alliance has come out today saying this rotational learning plan has to stop. And there are a lot of people that agree with you. Professor Shabir Mahdi, who's our country's top vaccinologist, is in full support of schools reopening completely. There is a sense from the Health Department, who I spoke to last night, that people are moving in that direction. What are you hearing? How are you going to push this forward? And why do you think it's safe to do so?
Well, I think it's safe to do so because you've got to balance the risk as against any decision that you make. We already have a huge problem with inequality in South Africa, and the rotational learning is affecting poorer learners disproportionately. Most school children lost around about 50% of their school year last year. Reading and writing has been reduced to 60 to 80% in some cases. This is obviously got grave effects for the future of these young people, as well as for the economy of South Africa. And so we believe that, given the fact that there's a very low risk now, there's no reason for us to have the rotational system in school, and we must get our children back into school so that they can be learning and getting the best shot possible for the future. I'm really hoping that good sense, like it did with the curfew, is going to prevail here, and that we're going to see a situation where our children can start the 2020 school year full tilt and hopefully recoup some of the lost time that we've had over the last 2.5 years.
I want to get a comment from you on the article written recently by Tourism Minister Lindiwe Sisulu. There's been widespread criticism, of course, of her taking aim at the judiciary and our constitution. My understanding is that you want to hold her to account through the Parliamentary Code of Conduct. Tell me more about that and what you want to see the President do about her.
Well, first of all, I think that out the blocks, the President should be the first one stepping up to pull the minister back in line. He appoints ministers, he disappoints ministers. They are appointed and served at his pleasure. If he has a minister who is sharing this type of, I believe, dangerous and unproductive attacks on the judiciary, clearly designed with an electoral outcome in the ANC's electoral conference, I think it's very, very bad news. And I think the President needs to come out on the side of the rule of law and respecting the judiciary. I don't always like the judgments that are handed down, but we accept that these are judgments, and you respect the rule of law in South Africa. To have a public office bearer who's sworn an oath of office to uphold the Constitution and perform their duties to the best of their ability, behaving in this way, I think it undermines one of the key tenets of the rule of law, and I don't think it's appropriate. I really don't think a minister who serves in both the legislative and the executive arm of the country should be criticizing in the manner that she's done, in the unsubstantiated manner that she's done, the other arm of state. And I think the President's silence on this thing has to end. He's got to say something about it, because, as I say, serves at his pleasure. So we'll be launching a complaint in both terms of the Executive Ethics Act, which governs members of the executive, but also the Parliamentary Code of Conduct, which requires MPs to engender trust in the institutions of state. And I think that these comments are most unfortunate and have undermined the judiciary quite significantly.
I've got less than a minute, but I do want to ask you about this, because yesterday your party called for a full investigation into Cadre deployment. You're asking the Public Service Commission to investigate. You've already been granted access to Deployment Committee minutes, and you want to introduce a private member's bill. How successful do you think you will be on this issue, and why is it so critical for the DA to launch this action?
It's absolutely critical, because if one looks at what has emerged from the Zondo Commission, the genesis of a lot of the problems in state-owned entities was through the deployment of individuals who owe their loyalty to the party rather than the state, and who have used the machinery of state in the awarding of tenders and contracts to benefit themselves and small networks, where they've been put into permanent positions in the civil service, which have long-lasting effects. And I think if we're going to end Cadre deployment in South Africa, which has had such a devastating effect on the ability of the state to perform, and we've seen billions siphoned off, we're going to have to end this practice of putting people into the formal public service outside of the political sphere into these key positions in state-owned entities and in government departments. And prevent that from happening. The law already provides for political appointees and in the offices of various office holders. There's no reason to be deploying people into the civil service itself to ensure that you have people around you who you can trust. And those people who are politically appointed, terms are limited to the term of the office bearer, and they have no power of instruction to anybody in the civil service. Their role is there to assist and advise their political principal, and when that political principal's term ends, their term ends as well.
All right. Well, thank you so much for chatting to us this evening on a variety of issues. The Democratic Alliance leader, John Steenhuisen.